Have you ever started your morning with sweet potatoes, believing you were choosing one of the healthiest foods for your body, especially as you get older? What if I told you that this exact habit done every day without a second thought could be quietly placing a dangerous strain on your kidneys? And by the time most people notice something is wrong, the damage is already far more advanced than they ever imagined. I'm Dr. Richard Hale, and in my years of working with patients over 60, I've seen this pattern again and again: good intentions, healthy choices, leading to silent decline, not because the food itself is bad, but because the body has changed in ways most people never fully understand. And today, I'm going to show you exactly what's really happening inside your kidneys when you eat this way, the 4 common habits that may be putting you at risk, and the simple shift that could help protect your health before it's too late. Because once you see this clearly, you'll never look at your daily routine the same way again. Now let's start with the first and most underestimated habit. Roasted sweet potatoes, the one almost no one questions because it feels warm, natural, and comforting. There's something deeply familiar about holding a hot roasted sweet potato in your hands. The smell, the sweetness, the feeling that you're eating something simple and healthy. And for years, that belief has gone unchallenged. But what most people don't realize is that the moment sweet potatoes are exposed to high direct heat for a long period of time, their entire metabolic impact changes. I remember a patient of mine, a 65-year-old woman named Linda. Every afternoon, like clockwork, she would eat 1 roasted sweet potato instead of snacks. She told me proudly, "Doctor, I quit cookies and replaced them with this." It's healthier, right? And on the surface, it sounds like a perfect choice. But a few months later, she started noticing something strange. She felt more tired after eating, her thirst increased, and she began waking up multiple times at night to urinate. When we ran her tests, her blood sugar levels were spiking higher than expected. And more importantly, her kidney filtration markers had begun to shift. So what really happened? When sweet potatoes are roasted at high temperatures, especially over an open flame or in prolonged dry heat, their complex carbohydrates begin to break down into simpler sugars much faster than when they are boiled or steamed. This process significantly raises their glycemic index, sometimes pushing it into a range similar to processed carbohydrates. In simple terms, instead of giving your body slow, steady energy, roasted sweet potatoes can hit your bloodstream like a sudden wave of sugar. Now imagine this: your blood is like a river flowing through extremely fine filters inside your kidneys. When sugar levels rise too quickly, that river becomes thicker, heavier, and more difficult to regulate. For a younger person, the body responds quickly with insulin to stabilize things. But after the age of 60, that response becomes slower, less efficient. And this is where the problem begins. Because every time that spike happens, your kidneys are forced to work harder to maintain balance. The tiny filtering units called nephrons are incredibly delicate. Repeated stress from blood sugar spikes doesn't cause immediate pain, which is why most people ignore it. But over time, it creates micro damage that slowly accumulates. Not in a way you can feel today, but in a way that shows up months or years later as declining kidney function. And here's the part that makes it even more dangerous. Roasted sweet potatoes don't just affect blood sugar, they also concentrate certain compounds due to moisture loss during cooking. So while the portion looks the same, the metabolic load on your body is actually higher than you think. It's a silent amplification one that your kidneys have to deal with every single time. Think of it like this: eating boiled sweet potatoes is like walking at a steady pace. But eating roasted ones, especially regularly, is like forcing your body to sprint over and over again without enough time to recover. And if you're someone who has been doing this daily, believing it's one of the safest choices for your health, you're not alone. This is one of the most common habits I see in patients who genuinely want to take care of themselves, but unknowingly create long-term stress on their kidneys. So the question isn't whether sweet potatoes are good or bad. The real question is, what form are you eating them in, and how often are you pushing your body beyond what it can quietly handle? Because once your kidneys begin to lose function, they don't regenerate the way other parts of the body might. They adapt, they compensate, until one day they simply can't keep up anymore. And this is why understanding even one small habit like how you cook your food can make a difference far bigger than most people expect. But knowing this alone is not enough, because there's another form of sweet potato that looks even healthier, more convenient, yet puts an even greater hidden burden on your kidneys, and most people are eating it every single day without realizing the risk. But if you thought roasted sweet potatoes were the main concern, the next one is even more deceptive because it looks lighter, cleaner, and healthier at first glance. Yet it quietly delivers a far greater load to your body-dried sweet potatoes. You've probably seen them small packs, chewy, naturally sweet, often marketed as a guilt-free snack. Many people switch to them thinking they've made a smart choice. No oil, no frying, no additives. Just pure sweet potato. That's exactly why it's so dangerous, because it hides behind the illusion of being harmless. I remember a patient named Robert, 70 years old, who told me he had completely cut out sugary snacks. Instead, every evening while watching TV, he would eat a handful of dried sweet potatoes. It's just vegetables, he said. It can't hurt me. But over time, he began experiencing unusual symptoms, dry mouth, constant thirst fatigue that didn't go away even after resting. When we checked his labs, not only had his blood sugar levels crept higher, but his potassium levels were also approaching a dangerous threshold. Here's what most people don't realize. When sweet potatoes are dried, nearly all the water content is removed. What remains is a highly concentrated form of everything inside sugar, potassium, and other compounds. That means a small 100-gram portion of dried sweet potatoes can easily equal 400 to 500 grams of fresh sweet potatoes in terms of nutritional load. But because the portion looks small, your brain doesn't register it as a lot. So you eat more and more without ever feeling like you've crossed a limit. From a metabolic perspective, this creates a perfect storm. The sugars in dried sweet potatoes are in a form that is rapidly absorbed, causing blood glucose to rise quickly, sometimes even faster than you'd expect from whole foods. At the same time, the potassium content is significantly elevated due to concentration. For a healthy kidney, this might be manageable in moderation. But for aging kidneys, especially after 60, this becomes a serious burden. Think of your kidneys like a filtration system that has been running nonstop for decades. Now imagine suddenly pouring in 4 or 5 times the usual load, all at once, without giving it time to adjust. That's what happens every time you snack on dried sweet potatoes without realizing how dense they really are. And the effects don't always show up immediately. That's what makes this habit so dangerous. You don't feel pain, you don't see warning signs right away, but inside your body is working overtime trying to stabilize blood sugar, trying to balance electrolytes, trying to filter out the excess. Over time, that constant strain can lead to subtle changes, increased fatigue, disrupted sleep, more frequent urination at night, signals that are easy to ignore or blame on aging. But it's not just getting older. It's the accumulation of small, repeated overloads that your kidneys are forced to handle every single day. And here's another detail most people overlook: because dried sweet potatoes are chewy and take longer to eat, many assume they digest more slowly. But in reality, once broken down, the sugars are already in a more accessible form, meaning your bloodstream receives a faster, more concentrated hit than you might expect. So what can you do? The solution isn't to completely eliminate them, but to treat them as a concentrated food, not a casual snack. That means reducing frequency, limiting portion size, and most importantly, never eating them mindlessly over long periods like during TV or late-night snacking, because that's when intake becomes uncontrolled. If you truly want to protect your kidneys, you have to start thinking differently, not just about what you eat, but how much impact it carries in each form. Because sometimes the foods that look the smallest carry the heaviest burden. And if this sounds like a habit you've had before, or maybe still do right now, take a moment and be honest with yourself. Have you ever finished a bag of dried sweet potatoes without realizing how much you actually consumed? If so, you're not alone, and recognizing it is the first step toward change. But knowing this still isn't enough, because there's another combination, one that feels incredibly natural, even traditional, that creates an even more dangerous effect inside your body, and most people repeat it every single day without question. Wait, before you think you've already identified the biggest risk, the next habit is where things become truly dangerous, not because it's rare, but because it feels completely normal, even traditional eating sweet potatoes together with salty foods. This is the kind of combination many people grew up with. A warm sweet potato paired with pickled vegetables, a pinch of salt, maybe some kimchi or preserved greens. It feels balanced, flavorful, even comforting. And for years, people have believed this mix helps digestion, even improves appetite. But inside your body, something very different is happening. I once worked with a 72-year-old man, Mr. David, who had a simple daily routine. Every morning he ate a boiled sweet potato with a small serving of pickled cabbage. It's light, easy, and traditional, he told me. And for a while, everything seemed fine. But slowly, subtle symptoms began to appear. His blood pressure crept up, his ankles felt slightly swollen by evening, and he started waking up multiple times at night. When we reviewed his labs, there was a clear pattern. His sodium levels were elevated, his potassium balance was unstable, and his kidney function had begun to decline. So what's really going on here? It comes down to a double load on your kidneys, one from sodium, one from potassium. Salted and pickled foods are extremely high in sodium. When sodium enters your bloodstream, it pulls water with it, increasing blood volume and raising blood pressure. That pressure is then pushed directly through your kidney's delicate filtration system. Now, at the exact same time, sweet potatoes are delivering a high amount of potassium, which your body must carefully regulate to maintain electrical balance in the heart and muscles. For a younger, healthy body, this balancing act might work. But for aging kidneys, this becomes a serious problem. Instead of balancing each other out, sodium and potassium compete for regulation, forcing your kidneys to work harder on two fronts at once. Imagine asking someone already tired to carry two heavy bags at the same time, one in each hand while walking uphill. That's what your kidneys are doing every time you combine these foods. And the danger doesn't stop there. High sodium intake has been consistently linked to increased blood pressure, and according to multiple studies, chronic high blood pressure is one of the leading causes of kidney damage worldwide. At the same time, excess potassium, when not properly excreted, can disrupt heart rhythm and create additional stress on the body. When both happen together, the effect is not neutral, it's amplified. Over time, this repeated double stress begins to damage the tiny filtering units in the kidneys. They lose flexibility, their efficiency drops, and small amounts of protein may start leaking into the urine, an early sign that the filtration barrier is weakening. But here's what makes this habit especially dangerous. It feels right. It doesn't taste extreme. It doesn't feel unhealthy. It's familiar, comforting, even cultural. And because of that, people repeat it every day without ever questioning it. So let me ask you something directly. Have you ever eaten sweet potatoes with something salty, thinking it was a perfect balance? If you have, you're not alone. But now you understand what's really happening beneath the surface. The goal isn't to eliminate everything you enjoy. It's to recognize when a combination quietly becomes a burden and to adjust before the damage builds up over time. Because your kidneys don't fail overnight. They wear down slowly, silently, through habits that feel harmless. But knowing this still isn't enough. Because the final habit, the one most people believe is the healthiest of all, is actually the one most closely linked to kidney stones and long-term damage. And once you understand it, you may never look at your morning routine the same way again. And now we come to the habit that surprises people the most, because it sounds the healthiest, the cleanest, even the most disciplined choice of all, eating sweet potatoes on an empty stomach. This is the one I hear patients defend the most. It's light, it's natural, it's better than bread or rice. And on the surface, that logic makes sense. But what your body does in that exact moment when your stomach is empty and your system is fully receptive is very different from what most people imagine. I remember a 63-year-old woman named Susan who had been following what she believed was a perfect morning routine. Every day, right after waking up, she would eat 1 or 2 sweet potatoes before anything else. No coffee, no protein, no other food, just sweet potatoes. She felt proud of her discipline. But after a few months, she began noticing discomfort, mild stomach irritation, cloudy urine, and a dull ache in her lower back that came and went. When we ran imaging and lab tests, early-stage kidney stone formation had already begun. She was shocked because she thought she was doing everything right. So what went wrong? The answer lies in a compound that very few people ever think about: oxalate. Sweet potatoes naturally contain oxalates. Under normal circumstances, when you eat a balanced meal, oxalate can bind with calcium in the digestive tract and be safely excreted. But when you eat sweet potatoes on an empty stomach, that protective mechanism is weakened. Your body in a fasted state absorbs nutrients and compounds much more aggressively. So instead of being neutralized in the gut, more oxalate enters the bloodstream. And once it's in your blood, it doesn't just disappear. It seeks out calcium and forms calcium oxalate crystals, the most common building blocks of kidney stones. Now imagine this process happening repeatedly day after day. Those crystals are not soft. Under a microscope, they look sharp like tiny shards of glass. And as they pass through the delicate structures of your kidneys, they don't just flow smoothly. They irritate, scratch, and slowly damage the tissue. Over time, they can accumulate, clump together, and grow into stones large enough to cause serious pain or even block urinary flow. And here's what makes this especially dangerous. It doesn't feel like a problem at first. There's no immediate warning, no sharp pain in the beginning, just small, subtle signs, slight discomfort, changes in urine, a bit of fatigue, easy to ignore, easy to dismiss. Until one day, it isn't. Because once stones form, the solution is no longer simple. It may involve medication procedures, even surgery. And if the underlying habit doesn't change, the cycle repeats. This is why I always tell my patients it's not just about what you eat. It's about when and how you introduce it into your body. If you choose to eat sweet potatoes, never let them enter your system alone on an empty stomach. Pair them with other foods, add fiber, protein, or even just start your day with a glass of warm water first. Small adjustments like these can significantly reduce how aggressively your body absorbs oxalates. Because at this stage of life, your body doesn't need extreme discipline. It needs balance. And if you've ever believed that eating clean automatically means eating safe, this is the moment to rethink that assumption. Because sometimes the habits we trust the most are the ones we question the least. And that's exactly where long-term damage begins. If you've stayed with me until this point, it tells me one important thing: you care about your health, and more importantly, you're willing to make small changes to protect it. And that alone already puts you ahead of most people. Because the truth is, your kidneys don't suddenly fail overnight. They respond quietly and consistently to the choices you make every single day. And the good news is, those same daily choices can also protect them, strengthen them, and give them the support they need to keep working for you for years to come. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to give up every food you enjoy. But starting today, be more mindful. Avoid roasting sweet potatoes too often. Limit dried forms, be careful with salty combinations, and never let them enter your body on an empty stomach. These are small adjustments, but over time they can make a difference far greater than you expect. If you found this helpful, I want you to do two simple things. First, save this video so you can come back to it anytime you need a reminder. And second, subscribe to the channel because I'll continue sharing simple science-based insights like this to help you protect your kidneys and stay healthier as you age. And if there's someone in your family, your parents, your partner, or even a friend over 60 who still believes they're eating healthy without knowing the hidden risks, share this with them. Sometimes the right information at the right moment can truly change a life. Because in the end, taking care of your kidneys isn't about fear, it's about understanding. And once you understand your body, you gain something incredibly powerful, the ability to protect your future one small decision at a time.